again, until the end of the show to really understand how important this is and to help us with that conversation. I was asking if all of them were teachers at some point and they say, you know what, there's a linkage to the same, all right? So on my immediate left, we have Mr. Shadrach Tonui, who is the National Secretary General, KATI, as well as the Principal, Kericho Township TBC, and KATI is Kenya Association of Technical Training Institution. Good to have you this morning. How are you doing?
Thank you, I'm fine, Winnie.
And karibu sana too.
Asante, thank you also to our viewers.
Karibu sana to the show. And we also have Dr. Edwin Tano, who is the principal, Kenya School of TVET. Good to have you this morning. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
All right, and karibu sana. And we also have Mr. Gideon Murenga, who's the National TVET Coordinator, GIZ Kenya, all right? I tried to pronounce the name in full, but it's well. Good to have you as well. Thank you so much for making the time. I mean, like I said, I was going to say happy World Teachers Day, and you said there's a linkage to the same. So, but will you accept it? Just say thanks. Yeah. To all of you. And first of all, before we even focus on TVET and you know the role of TVET and most importantly the impact, looking at the education sector right here in the country and the pivotal role that teachers play, where would you say we are at? And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Shadrach.
Thank you, Winnie, also to our viewers.
Yeah.
I think it's important actually to realize that education sector in Kenya has been under some transformation.
Yeah.
And today, we are privileged that we are in a time and age where actually there's a transformative change. There's a paradigm shift in curriculum, and actually there are many things that are taking place in the education sector.
Yeah.
This is not left behind only for the TVET sector, but also across all the other levels of education in our country.
Yeah.
And indeed, we are very proud that the country is heading in the right direction in terms of education change. Yes.
I mean, we have been ranked amongst one of the best, you know, across the region. So that's a good thing to celebrate as well. But Dr. Tano, let's hear from you. Where are we at? What is it that you see as far as our education system is concerned in the country and the pivotal role that really teachers play?
Thank you, Winnie. I think first I would like to really wish all the teachers a happy International Teachers Day and just reassure them they are special and a very noble group. And I think they should continue doing very good as they have always done. We have had so many reforms currently. The Presidential Working Party came up with even more detailed way in which we need to deal with the reforms. And that means that we have to you know, look at their recommendations. But we have several areas that we really need to deal with. In our educational sector, particularly in the TVET sector, there are three areas that we really focus on. The student, which we talk about the entry behavior of the student, what grades did they receive when they are coming in. Then the teacher, the person who is supposed to transmit that information and package it. And then the third part is the industry, where our brothers from GIZ and other companies come from. So we in Kenya have fixed some, we have not fixed some. We have worked so much on, industries are still coming in play. We have equipped our labs very, very well. In fact, that's an area we exceed expectation in Kenya. We have state-of-art equipment in most of these technical colleges, especially the new ones. I think the way we are still lagging is the question of the technical teacher. How competent is the technical teacher? How grounded is that technical teacher in the industry needs? And these are the areas that we really need to focus on, because reforms without the teacher is in vain.
That's true. That's true. I see that, and I'm happy that you're here to help us answer all those questions as well. And very quickly to you, Gideon, as well, the teacher, because there's nothing that we can do to replace the teacher. And you know, like Dr. said, they play such a pivotal role that, you know, there's nothing that we can do, you know, in terms of replacing them. You know, there were conversations around AI and it's coming to take away our jobs, you know, and all those things. But again, what would you say as far as, you know, protecting this very noble career?
Thank you, Winnie, and happy World Teachers Day to all the teachers, very important persons in our society. I think we have made tremendous progress in terms of being able to develop our education system in the country, because for you to evaluate the effectiveness of an education system is the, you know, its ability to generate jobs. You know, as much as we have tried, we have very technical people that are coming out of education system. still a little bit aspect of relevance is what we need to keep on working on. And that's why I think you can see there is this outcry about, you know, I've completed my education system, but I've not been able to get a job.
True.
I think that's the major outcry that is currently facing the country. So it is the issue of relevance that we need to keep on working, so that then are we training, you know, for the need of the market, or are we just training for purposes of training? So that's an area that we need to fill that gap as soon as possible. And I think as we'll be having this conversation today, that's where the TVET comes in, because we all want to go for degrees and become managers, but then how many managerial positions are out there, you know? So we also need to look at, you know, the hands-on aspects of training, which has been neglected for quite a long time, which has been considered to be an area for, you know, those who didn't make it to university. So we need to reevaluate that part of the education and see where do we all fit, who comes in at what point, so that you are not criticizing your child or your son because they didn't make it to university. You know, you don't look at that TVET around you and say, oh, this is for the ones who didn't make it to university. So that's an area that we just need to reevaluate and see, so that everybody has a place to fit.
True. We do not leave anyone behind. And I think a few years ago, we were having a lot of conversation around what is being offered in universities, for example. And you talk to so many learners and they will tell you, you know, we're given more of theory, right? We do not have anything technical. So I think that goes to say the introduction of TVETs is the best thing, if I can say, that happened in our country. So Dr. I'm going to begin with you. How does school then, Kenya School of TVET, contribute to recognizing, you know, all those things that we're talking about? And this is making sure that we appreciate not only the role of TVET, but also teachers as well. What would you say?
Thank you very much. Kenya School of TVET is a relatively new outfit, which was created from the former Kenya Technical Trainers College, which again formerly was Kenya Technical Teachers College, built by the Canadians in the 1970s for technical teachers. The mandate has changed now. It's going to do more than that. It's a postgraduate institution, just in the likes of Kenya School of Law, Kenya School of Government, Kenya School of Monetary Studies. So it's a postgraduate institution. So we then are focusing plainly on the TVET practitioners, from the principals of colleges to the drivers in the institution. How are their skills done? Can we be able to take care of their interests as they grow, their continuous professional development? So the first thing we do is, of course, to transform you from that ordinary or that special engineer to become a technical trainer, to go and teach in our colleges. By teaching you, introducing you to aspects of andrology and pedagogy and that go with it, the methodologies of teaching. The second thing is to give you continuous professional development, which is a very critical thing. And that is very critical for us because technology changes every day. Even here in your studios, things technology keep changing. We must catch up with it. That means the teachers must be able to be the top notch in that information circle, so that they can then be able to teach the students what they best know, and students then become good producers of products that come out of it. So that continuum must be maintained, and the critical aspect is the teacher. Then we are also very happy that we have immensely contributed in the last 3 years. We partnered with African Development Bank to run a program for TVET managers. And it's been a very successful program where we trained them on management issues. Just a year ago, we started rolling out the competence-based education and training. We're using the Canadian model with a SICAN. SICAN is Canadian and Institutes of Canada. SICAN, it's an association for the Canadian institutes. And we have worked very well, and I'm very proud to say that so far we have done about 2,595 technical trainers to go through the competence-based education training system. As I talk to you now, the final rollover is starting again next week, where each teacher is taken through 2 weeks competence-based training. This is the highest deepening of any system, because we are talking of almost half of all the teachers in TVET so far have gone through it. We are intending to roll it over by January so that we have all of them done. Of course, we have those ones then who are in the private sector, and we have those ones who are in line ministries. So that is an area that we are going to do. The third thing, in the month of February, we intend with the GIZ to now roll what is called the dual teaching. Dual teaching is a subsector of the competence-based. Competence-based refers to ability for you to have your skills tested and proved, not just having the knowledge, but having the skill. Because a lot of what we have seen is that there is so much knowledge,
but then
there is very little skill.
Yeah.
And you know, where skill is required, knowledge may not help much.
That's true.
You must balance between the attitudes, the knowledge, and the skill. So we are then going to go to industry, where we will now want to supervise the lecturers of TVET institutions and see how we can work with the GIZ to fuse in the industrial attachment aspect. How do they work with the industries? How can they be monitored in the industries? And I think that is an area that we are looking at. The next 7 or so months, I think we'll be having very different results in what we will be doing across the country. So I think that is our job at the Kenya School of TVET.
And we are waiting to see. We are waiting to see the next 7 months, what's going to come out of the same. All right. And speaking of things changing, I'm pretty sure that when we're talking about, you know, the teachers in technical training, that has also evolved, right? Can we understand how this, you know, has come about?
Okay, thank you, Winnie, and thank you to our viewers. I think if I may be able to take you back to the memory lane. To 1924, where we actually had the first technical institution back. Even before then, the indigenous education in Kenya. Actually, our great-grandparents used to have a kind of informal education, which was TVET in nature, because there used to be some form of skills in agriculture, in farming, when it comes to pottery, when it comes also to basket weaving and all the other kinds of trade that was done in that time. Today, we are able to see the progress from that time to 1924, where we had the first TVET institution. The colonial period, we had the Kenya Kabete Industrial Training Depot established in 1924, which became the first entry point for TVET sector in Kenya. Now from there also we see the influx of the colonial masters, the Europeans were coming, the use of the railway line, the building of the railway line in Kenya, Kenya-Uganda railway line, and all these other things that take place around that time. We see the Indians coming to do the same, and there was actually their need for these technicians to be in place, the artisans, the craftsmen, people coming actually to ensure that the sector is moving. So from then, we have seen the migration and the change, so that at the time of independence, we saw a kind of a paradigm shift. Now, there was a focus after independence for our country now to have equipped the skilled, the trained persons to take care of our industries and all that. Also, one thing that contributed much to establishment of the TVET sector was after the Second World War. This is the time where we had many things taking place in our country. We had many cars coming to our country. We had many equipments coming to our country. And so there was need also for technicians to be in place. So from the now, we have seen a lot of change. And this has been addressed through the fiscal change, the policy change, the issue of inclusivity, and also the curriculum change. Today, we are able to celebrate and say that a teacher has been able to be fashioned out to become one of the best through even the technology change and the digitalization in their country.
I mean, there's a lot of conversation, speaking of digitalization, and a lot of teachers would say, training, and even introduction of CBC, right? A lot of teachers were saying, listen, we have not been properly equipped. We have not been properly trained. And I think this is what Dr. was asking earlier on. How well-trained or well-skilled is this teacher to offer these services? Because at the end of the day, it's quality education that we want to give to our learners across the board, right? So we'll want to understand, so that the impact of the same. To what magnitude would you quantify, you know, this evolution and this change? But before that, we know TVET cannot work alone. That is why we have GIZ. So then what are some of these initiatives and projects that you have put in place? Because I'm pretty sure there are several, right? But what are some of these that you can point them out?
Thank you, Winnie. So GIZ is a federal enterprise of the German government, and it supports the German government in achieving its objectives in international cooperation for sustainable development. And one of the priority areas in Kenya is sustainable economic development, where employment promotion and job creation is one of the areas of support. GIZ is supporting the Kenyan government through the Ministry of Education to establish frameworks of cooperation and support the relevance aspects within the TVET ecosystem. The project is implementing what Dr. mentioned, referred to as dual TVET. So in dual TVET, we are supporting the government to put up a policy framework and also roll out dual vocational training. And what dual vocational training means is that you train in the industry and in the TVET school, you know, during your training period. So you spend a minimum, let's say if you're doing a course of 2 years, a diploma course, you spend a minimum of 50% training in the industry. 50% training. Okay. And it's not attachment, it's 50% training in the industry. Right. So that means the training in the industry can go to as high as 70%, as high as 80%, depending on other factors. Why? Because the TVET system is designed to generate hands-on experiences and a workforce for economic development of the country. Yeah. And TVET does not train for its own consumption, it trains for the consumption of the labor market. So for us to address issues of relevance, to know that are we training for the skills that are required in the labor market, you therefore work with the industries, because they are the ones who know what skills are needed. They are the ones who know what technology is changing. You know, we have situations where perhaps in some institutions they're still training the carburetor system and the carburetor car. How many cars can you be able to see on the road and the carburetor system? Yeah. So those are the things. When you talk on the automotive industry, now they're talking about e-mobility. We're talking about electric cars. Yeah. You know, so the industry tells you now we are out of, we are not dealing with carburetors. We want electric cars. Yeah. So if we work with them, it means students spend some time in the training institution, and then sometime they go to the company. And the company is designed in such a way that it has an in-company trainer who takes the students through some modules of training from an environment that is a real work-based environment. Okay. So what it means for these students is that when they complete their studies, it's plug and play to the labor market. Okay. It's saving costs of retrainings and inductions. You know the way you're employed and you need to go through an induction for 6 months.
A 9-month probation period.
9 months probation period.
It's a long time wastage,
Cultures, there are some things that are natural. You know, how do you deal with a client? There are things you don't learn in school, but you experience them when you work on the industry floor, for example. So we are supporting on that component right now we have a program that is jointly financed by the government of Finland and Germany that is running between now and 2026. We are looking at rolling out this program in 60 TVET institutions, about 6,000 students. We are looking at them going through that program, and about 800 companies will be collaborating. And so far as we speak, we have 200 already on board. Oh, nice. So even the willingness from the private sector is there, you know, to really support the aspects of addressing relevance of training within TVET. Obviously, the other things we look at, like gender aspects, the inclusion of many women in TVET. Yes. Sometimes you look at TVET and imagine it's hands-on, it's a mechanic, it's supposed to be a man.
That is what it sounds. But that's not the case here.
Yeah. And interesting, you'll be surprised that some of the industry partners that have even employed, let's say, women, they find them more productive and more committed to their work than men in those positions. So we are looking at gender support aspects, we are looking at digitization aspects, we are looking at the environmental aspect. You know, one of the major shifts now in the world is climate change and the effects of climate change, you know. So we are looking at environmental sustainability aspects also being integrated into the training modules. So we generally providing a framework supporting the ministry so that the ministry is able to roll out and adopt new training methodology and a dual TVET system. Then it helps us to generate a workforce that is relevant, that is competent, that is progressive, that is adaptive, that is dynamic.
I see that. I see that. And I really like the, what you said about 50%, you know, spend on learning and get, you know, all this, I'd say theory aspect of the same, but also 50%. Yes. It's equally important, because what we used to see before is you spend majority of your time, I want to say like 80% in this case, and then only 20% learning this, and then end up spending a lot more time getting the hands-on skills that you need when you get into the job market. And like Terry said, information and skills are equally important. But then when we have an influx of information and no skills, then there's literally nothing much that we're doing. So we're due on a break, but when we come back, we'd want to understand. So yes, you know, TVET, we have CATI, and we have GIZ. So then collaboration, right? How important is collaboration? And what is it that we can do to also strengthen the same? Because there's that aspect of, yes, this institution providing this, but the institution needs support from the likes of GIZ as well. So let's take that break. But when we come back, there's so much, including what message, again, you'd like to convey to all the TVET teachers. I'm pretty sure they're watching you this morning. So what is it that you're going to tell them? But all that is coming up after the break. Stay with us. The show is Your World. If you want to celebrate any particular teacher, please feel free to do so on our socials. So that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_. We look forward to what you have to say. But for now, let's take that break. See you shortly.
perfect family is not always what it seems.
Hapa hakuna mtu anaweza kunificha kitu.
The War of Succession is on. Inca Siri starts October 9. Only on Maisha Magic Plus, channel 163 on DSTV, GoTV, channel 3.
My name is Pamela Sitoni. I'm Group Managing Editor at Nation Media Group. Team service means all of us in the editorial department working together as one team. And recently we have created an integrated newsroom which brings together all the broadcast journalists and the print journalists, producing content that is purposed for digital first execution and producing content that we believe our customers will love and be happy to engage with.
From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Kenyan workers represent an important segment in Saudi Arabia.
Understanding Saudi Arabia's labor market.
We today have over 120,000 Kenyan domestic workers. The males are mainly in the private sector.
The opportunities, the regulations, the do's and don'ts.
Maisha Saudi ni sheria.
And what is being done to ensure worker welfare and protection.
We have more than 800 inspectors. We conduct over 1 million field visits.
Plus, the role being played by the Kenyan government back home.
We are in the process of negotiating a higher minimum wage for domestic workers coming from Kenya.
Mortein Doom, with its trusted formulation, it provides protection in seconds. So spread the Mortein Doom message of how we, you and I, can fight to end malaria. Mortein Doom, Kenya's #1 choice.
The Capital Markets Authority, in collaboration with industry stakeholders, is hosting an Islamic Finance Conference on the 4th to 5th October 2023. The CMA chairman, Mr. Ugas Mohammed, is leading a live panel discussion on Islamic finance on NTV at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, 5th October. He'll be joined by Islamic finance experts Professor Asin Lassana, Mr. Jafar Abdul Kadir, and Mr. Abdallah Abdul Khalik. Don't miss out.
All right, welcome back. The show is Your World, 34 minutes past. The time really, really flies, all right? And today's conversation is on World Teachers Day. And we're taking this special moment to celebrate all the teachers in this country and even beyond. And we're saying Happy World Teachers Day. We cannot overemphasize the important role that you guys play in shaping people's lives and people's future as well. And during the break, we're talking about Mwalimu math. So if you're teaching math, Happy World Teachers Day as well to you too. And like I said before we went on a break, the theme for this year is the teachers we need for the education we want. And this is as far as the global imperative to reverse the teacher shortage. And this is not a new problem. We have had this over and over again here in the country. But my panelists this morning will tell us, so then what is it that we need to do to really reverse the situation so that we get quality education to all our learners. But even so, we said if you want to celebrate any teacher this morning, please feel free to do so at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie, and of course my producer has taken the lead, all right? Agatha, and says, I celebrate my sister. She is a teacher at Wangu Primary School. Her name is Mariam Lenjo. And I also want to celebrate my dad, Charles Lenjo. He was a teacher, principal district education officer, and joined TSC, but he is now retired. So once a teacher, always a teacher, whether you have retired or not. So happy World Teachers Day as well to you. And feel free, send them our way. quickly, and we'll read them before we end the conversation. And during the break again, one of the things that we were discussing is the teacher and the profession in itself. And we talked about the role a teacher plays. But other than that, are we losing that noble, aspect as far as teaching is concerned? And I asked you this, Shadrach, during the break. Are you seeing more people enrolling into teaching now as compared to then? Because over time, this has sort of shifted. We have moved from seeing teaching as a really noble career based on the challenges that they go through to, well, it's sort of like a last, what is the word? Last option for so many people. And Gideon was giving us an example. Someone goes into a different profession, studies a different profession. Akikosa kazi, they look for that local school to go and teach. So are we losing that? Are we losing that noble aspect as far as teaching is concerned? And please cap that with some of these other challenges that, teachers go through in this country.
Thank you, Winnie. I think earlier on I talked about the policy change and even also the curriculum, where we have a paradigm shift in the curriculum. And actually where we are today, there is a shift from the traditional mode of teaching to the modern method of teaching. And actually the sector is changing rapidly. So as that is changing, we realize that this profession, which is quite noble, is now affecting the mindset of the people. Because previously we used to see people desiring and admiring actually the role of being a teacher.
Yes, to be a teacher,
and today, actually, I can say we are in an equilibrium. People are set now to make a proper decision on whether to be a teacher. But personally, I desire being a teacher. If I'm given a second choice to choose teaching, I will go for teaching. Even at that time, I'll go for teaching.
All right.
And but I think with the modern change, and even with the introduction of the technology, the AIs and all that, I think it's affecting the choice of who to become a teacher and who not to become a teacher. You see people now are migrating, and some desiring to become more of teachers, some others are desiring moving to the industry. And I think I may not give a correct explanation on whether people desire to become a teacher because it is more personal. It's a choice because we see it as a career, it's a profession and all that.
They say it's more of a passion than a career, right? Because they're learners, some very young, others in their teenage years, others young adults, and you have to really know how to handle and how to deal with these people. Aside from just giving them the knowledge that they need, but you're also impacting them in one way or the other. We're making this joke about Mwalimu Wama.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, remember what Mother Teresa said? Mother Teresa once said that a teacher diminishes so that the learners can grow. So a role of a teacher is supposed to come down below the levels of the teacher learners. And then learners can be able now to enjoy a position of able to get the knowledge, understand, accept the learning and all that, which actually makes a teacher to be with humility, serving the country and its people.
And you said a lot has changed, I mean, in terms of like policies and whatnot, but still there's some challenges that we're still experiencing, which is sad. Like 2023, this current century, we're still dealing with cases of teacher shortage, remuneration when it comes to the teachers and what they deserve, and even in retirement as well. We're still experiencing some of these challenges, and I wonder what it will take for us to solve all these challenges so that teachers are awarded a really good working environment, but also we have enough teachers for our learners. We'll come back to you for that. And Gideon, very quickly before we come back to Daktari, outside Kenya, I wonder whether this is the same case as well across the region, where the teaching profession in itself, it's very respected. If I can say that, and especially when you're talking about TVETs, I wonder why that isn't the case. What is it that is happening there through GIZ that is not working here in the country, and what will it take for us to get to that level? Because you're giving an example, in Germany it takes, what, 7 years?
Yes.
For you to become a teacher. So yeah, what is working there that should be working here?
No, I think it's just the investment that is put in on a teacher.
Okay.
And, the recognition of the role they play that makes it, it makes it a profession that someone is proud, to be associated with. We've just given an example of, like Germany, the way it takes 7 years before you can be certified and licensed to become a TVET trainer. You look at things like they must have industry experience, for example. There are state examinations that you have to go through, 2 of them at different levels. You need to shadow another professional teacher also for a minimum of almost 1 year before you are licensed to become a teacher.
Oh, wow.
So by the time you get into the class, you've really been prepared. You know the way engineers are proud and medical people are proud because of the years they take in training. That's the kind of thing you're looking at. Because if an investment is put in so that it's not just a by the way profession, but you really, it's a recognized, acknowledged professional, then it's very easy to hold it as a, for people to be proud, going through such a profession. And I did give an example that through a teacher, you get the doctor, you get the engineer, you get the leader, you get the business person. So it means the teacher defines really the country's, economic development. It defines the country's status. So everybody, at one point in their life, they have gone through a teacher. And remember, when you talk about teaching takes place in various ways. There's formal, there's also informal. There are people you interact with, and you still get to learn a lot from them. So I think that's what I will see as the difference. Looking at what has happened outside the country, and just the focus that is given to a teacher is what makes people proud, and it being recognized as a key professional. The industrialized countries, it's their workforce that determines their industrialization agenda. That's why they're industrialized. We get to a point where we have to import some of these skills from other countries. Somebody else invested in them outside there. It means even for us, if we put up some effort to just recognize the teaching profession and what the teachers do, it means then we can be able also to, to really brand this profession as one of the most important professions that we need for a country.
I see that. And Dr. Ari, early on you mentioned things keep changing, and that's true. We have seen that with technology. Back then our parents used to say, I don't care about technology, but right about now it is very important for everybody to have at least the basic knowledge as far as, for example, technology is concerned. So then that goes to say that needs to be, that continuous development when it comes to this profession, and TVET and TVET trainers not being left behind. So then, how would you say, why is this so important? And then can you tap that with then collaboration? Because I want to believe for this to happen, collaboration here and there with the private institutions need to come in and be strengthened.
Thank you. I would like us to remind ourselves there is a gentleman called Albert Einstein, if you remember, a tough physicist. He said education is not just talking about facts. It is training the mind to think. Training the mind
to think.
The word is training. So CPDs are so critical. In fact, any system that does not have continuous professional development will actually stagnate. In the same context, then TVET is even more interesting. The evolution of technology is amazing and so frightening. We have ChatGPT. It can do your homework. I wrote an article, I think, in one of your newspaper, I think, a month ago or something, on the risks and interests of ChatGPT in education. So, how do you control that? Can you imagine a teacher who is not able to understand what's going on in the technology, marking exams and giving this student an A? Because ChatGPT will give you an A, especially if it's nothing to do with practicals. And that gives you the idea of why we need to move with speed. We have newer technologies that are coming in. In the technology world, if you are dealing with e-mobility vehicles, when was the last time a teacher was trained in e-mobility vehicles? Do they even understand we are in that industry, apart from the theory part? So CPDs have become so critical. And therefore, if we do not take care of the CPD of the trainer, we lose out. But how does the private sector come in? The private sector comes in by virtue of allowing the communication between the institution, the teacher, and the student. And look at what we will try to roll out with the GIZ starting from February, where we expect a system that we are developing that will be able to anchor industry, and where the technical trainers will go to industrial attachment. Just as it happens in Germany, it's a compulsory aspect. Every 3 years you must go for attachment as a requirement in the industry, so that you know what's going on there, so that you don't teach students what you don't know. So there are several things that really we must do in it. What are the incentives that will make industry agree? If the industries, they will always tell you it's not their business to train. as much as they want those graduates. It's a cost. Training is expensive. If you have 10 workers who are being trained at the industry from a technical institution or a technical teachers coming to that particular facility, who pays for their upkeep there? What happens in the time they waste from the industry side? So we need to create some incentives for the industry. Either things like tax rebates that can be able to make industry believe in absorption. Maybe the number of people they work with, what compensation can be done. If you attach them at the nation media, what are benefits that each one gets? Then we also need to look at give the incentives and regulatory conditions for the technical trainers to make them actually attend those particular courses. Just like a CPD is a requirement in many of these professions, so that then they are compelled to go to those places in a manner that allows them also to teach. But again comes the issue, who pays for them to go to that industry? Who is going to pay for their transport every morning? So these are the kind of things that we really need to discuss and come up with actual policies that can be able to sustain, to make it sustainable and to make it work. And remember, we can't bury our heads in the sand and say it's not. You want to move to the next industrial level, you just have to invest on this. So it's not a question of if, it's when are you going to do this and how fast should you do it, considering that we are moving and evolving at a very fast rate. Look at the Presidential Working Party report. It's so spot on. It actually specifically says where our problems are. Anyone who has read that particular report will tell you that it's so spot on that we really don't need to think about anything else, just implement it. And once we implement this, I can assure you, most likely more than 3/4 of the issues that were mentioned by the public should be able to be addressed by implementing that report as urgently as possible.
Yeah, again, I'm just curious to understand. So then, what are some of these measures that need or have been put in place? I know you talked about policy being one of the things, but aside from policy, because again, in our country, we have really good policies, but on paper, all right? So then what are some of these measures that have been put in place just to make sure that this happens, and also cap that with inclusivity, because we talked about it as well, gender, being one of those things that we're looking at. So what are some of these measures that have been or should be put in place?
There are several that have been. Let me start with the ones which are existing, that we are not using. The TVET Act, it stipulates that people should go for industrial attachment. We don't really enforce it. The TVET Act talks about having pedagogy as a condition, as part of their regulations, in order for you to teach in technical. We've seen advertisements that were done recently which do not take care of a person who has taken pedagogy, which means you're basically violating the regulation, the laws. And we are here doing it jointly. Either one arm is not sure what the left hand is doing, or someone is not doing what they're supposed to do. Then we have the other ones that are there. Like if you talked about the Presidential Working Party, it has recommended very massive things. The universities, those are the people who really need to move to the next level. CBC has been done in primary education, and they are still struggling to fix it. And I'm happy that the report has recommendations. TVET, we are moving. You can see we are talking of training almost half of the technical teachers through the CBET program at the Kenya School of TVET. And we are moving to train more. And we are now even going to dual system. But the universities are yet to even move to CBET. And this one is a fact. I know we have arguments every day with them. But the truth of the matter is that they have actually not embraced Tibet. And if you look at the presidential report, it says it openly. It's not something we are discussing. The public said it. The students said it. In a research that we did recently at the Kenya School of Tibet, of the graduates, and it's amazing, we've done 2. We asked students, graduate students, how much practicals did they have during their training of 4 years degree? The shocking, between 0 and 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, that shows you how risky we are living. Because then it means you may not be able to teach the next person in the issues of competence based. So I think these reports should be taken seriously, both at the lowest level, at the TVET level, and at the university sector. They really have to look at that report and appreciate that it's a report that came from all of us, and that they cannot sit in their own corner and say they can do their stuff. So I think it's high time they also came out and started trying to listen to what Kenyans are asking and what the industry is demanding.
Absolutely. All right. And Mr. Shadrack as well. So what are some of the strategies that are being employed as well, just to make sure that we address the biggest issue, and this is as far as skills gap is concerned?
Yes, Winnie, I want to first thank the ministry, led by Honorable Ezekiel Machogu, and our State Department PS, Dr. Esther Tara Moria, because when they came into office, actually we have witnessed a lot of change. There's a paradigm shift. Number one, we have seen the change of the KTTC to the School of TVET. This is actually what the TVET sector has been yearning for. And when it happened, really we have seen some wonderful thing, because this is where we have now professional development for the trainer is taking place there. Our trainers are supposed to be subjected to continuous professional development, which is supposed to be quality, supposed to be relevant. And you see that one alone will make a lot of difference. In the opening remarks of Dr. Tarno, he said actually that the problem, the greatest challenge is the teacher. If we can change the mindset of the teacher to understand about the new curriculum, about the new change and the paradigm shift in the curriculum, then we shall have sorted out most of the issues. The other thing that we need actually to embrace and to understand is going to bring change is collaboration with the industry. We thank Mrenga because this is actually where we are supposed to be fixing. This is where the rubber is supposed to be meeting the road. Because the more we train the trainer, and the more we subject the trainer into the industry, and our trainees also to the industry, the more we can be able now to sort out the issues. The skills mismatch between the training sector and the industry shall now be narrowing down over and over. The other thing also is about the collaboration between the industry and the institution, in the sense that they are supposed to be now even also donation and supply of equipment from the industry to the institution. If that is done, then we can be able to say that, for example, the tea sector in Kericho, for example, the automobile industry where we have got the CMC Motors and all that, where there is a linkage between them and the institution, they shall be able to have 100% quality and relevant training given to our trainees, and when they are supposed to be released when they are released to the industry, they shall be able to deliver 100%. Today the industry is complaining. Why? Is because our trainees, when they are released to the industry, there is a skill mismatch. If that one is sorted, then there shall be a solution to that.
We'll be good to go. All right. But let's then understand how private sectors, other stakeholders can come in and contribute to this, to the success of TVET programs here in the country, because like we said, one institution cannot just set itself aside and say, as we're doing our own things, you do your own things, right? So then how can this private sector and other institutions come in?
Thank you for that, Winnie. So the private sector, so the model we are supporting the government is really, to bring in the private sector in various aspects. The first one is what Mrs. Sanui has already mentioned, on equipment support. One reality is that technology in the industry is changing very fast. Very fast. Technology today, the next hour could have changed. But the reality of the matter is this: the government is not in a position to keep on changing equipment in the institutions every year. That is a reality. Therefore, how do you bridge that gap? That's why you bring in the industry. So that means the training, students will use what is in the institution, but when they go to the industry training, they get exposed to the latest equipment and technology. That is one. Number two, curriculum development. We need to train curriculum that is relevant to the labor market. Things are changing. The industry comes in to advise on curriculum and say, oh, this has changed. If there are needs, there are new areas that are coming in. I think if you look at analysis, there are courses that are becoming obsolete. And there are new courses that are coming up. So it's the industry that is in a good position to tell you, this is the kind of people we need at this point. So they give you that input. Institutions have governance structures, for example. There are board of governors and other things. The involvement of industry players in the board of governors, it's also key. The Presidential Working Party has now recommended 50+1% of the board members should be coming from the industry. So that is again one area that the industry gives input, in terms of collaboration of private sector. When you look at financing as well, within the dual TVET system, we did a pilot with 7 institutions, 4 in Nairobi, 3 in Nairobi, 4 in Western Kenya. We have one called the Kerubo Gietai, working with tea factories around Nyamira. The industry is there actually paying school fees for the students. So when you talk about even challenges of access and challenges on financing, because they have taken them as kind of employees, they are training them so that they can absorb them. So they're actually paying school fees for that. And it means these are models that can be duplicated in many other places where the industry, industries run the economy. They are the ones who generate, employment. They are the ones who make money. So they are the ones who are in a good position to even support financing of, of students. And they can finance in various ways. We have seen industries donating equipment. Nairobi, TTI got a donation of equipment from Bosch, in automotive. Very good equipment. And they said, we have this equipment, they are lying idle in our place. You have them, use them to train your students. When you want to train some of our workers, we'll come and train them at your place. Yeah. We have seen CMC Motors also in some of the partner institutions we're working with. They have contributed another of equipment. Yeah. So those are the kind of collaborations that we need to have. There's a model we saw in Germany where there's a kind of an exchange program where an institution that is partnering with a certain TVET, at a certain period, the CEO of that company comes to work and sit in that TVET institution, let's say for a week or 2 weeks. Yeah. And the principal of the TVET school goes to the industry also, to sit there for like a week. So they exchange.
Interesting.
So the CEO of the company is able to monitor, what are you guys doing? Now, the principal from the school is able to see from the industry what is expected. You see, that's the kind of collaboration that you're talking about.
I see that. I see that. And after everything is said, because... And I'm just curious to hear from you, Daktari, where are we now? Because, see, it's one thing to say this is the ideal and this is what it looks like. But then there's another thing to have this, being implemented. So I'm just curious to understand. So where are we? What are some of the steps that we need? I know we've talked about what should happen, but where are we and what does the future of TVET look like from your eyes?
Thank you. First, Kenya is one of the best system countries in Africa. As we talk today, we are in the forefront of Africa. Yeah. Everyone comes to benchmark. We receive a lot of calls. We receive a lot of interests. We currently at the School of TVET receive a lot of interest. We have people from Uganda, Tanzania, and many other countries coming here. Yeah. We sit in very many African boards that really determine the policies of TVET in Africa. So we are actually a critical group, and we are doing much better than most countries. Okay. We have expanded our colleges from the initial 50 to around 130 now, and we have bought new equipment. We are moving well. The policies that were not in place have changed. In 2013, we brought in the TVET Act, which never used to be there before. So the industry is shaping up. We make some errors as usual, like all human beings in one way. The other time, TVET SIDAC was not in, now it's back. So these are the kind of things that we are doing. So Kenya as a country is moving very well. And I'm so proud about what the ministry is spearheading, and it's working, and the magic is picking up. We now have a situation where we should now reach the finis. You have the equipment. Okay. You have a teacher who you are not very sure is 100% fixed. You have the industry that is, I would say, is not fully convinced that we can be able to work. And this one, Mr. Murenge will tell you, we are looking for 800, you only have 200 companies. When you were doing the piloting last time, it was very difficult to get companies to come in. And it's because we need to look at the incentive level of these industries. Okay. Industries must see the benefit of the technical student graduate for them. Then that way they'll be able to embrace. So we are yet to first create a completely acceptable rapport and also a system of engagement. We need to develop a system of engagement. A system in which we can be able to know how do we engage industry, what are their benefits, how do we move them from position A to position B, how much can we build in trust. The second aspect is the curriculum. How can we create a curriculum that is responsive to the industry needs? And responsive to the industry needs means it should have the ability to have the three aspects, the skill, the attitude, and the knowledge. Now, those three spins are where the story starts and stops in TVET. The skills, industry-based, and also at the college. The attitude is the concept of the student's way of looking at whether I should actually be a fundi or not.
Or not, okay.
Yeah. You know, do you really pride yourself wearing an overall and you have no problem with that? Which can be done at the school, and particularly even through the systems. I'm very happy about how we are rebranding. The ministry is coming up, the State Department is coming up with rebranding of TVET. In fact, it's going to be a very interesting rebranding from what we have seen. Rebranding TVET. You go to Singapore, they have buses there, and you know they write in the bus, this bus is made by TVET. You know, things like that. Then you have the knowledge, now, which is predominantly the teacher's position and the student. Remember, students nowadays are better than us. They know more than we know in many facets. They may not shape them into the place. They can learn earlier. They can be able to go to school in their own. We have new technology systems that can teach students on their own, and they're able to have knowledge that comes in. So I think those are the areas that we really need to work on, and I'm happy that we are actually heading there. But I think the question is the frameworks that we need to develop quickly to move to that particular next level. As generally, we are doing fairly good.
Okay, I like that. A positive way to end the conversation. Time is not on our side, and I think the attitude shift, what you're saying, I think should be among all of us, so that we do not see someone wearing an overall and we start judging them, you know, but we should pride ourselves in that. I really, really like that. All right, so as we end the conversation, I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds, and this is to give your message to all the TVET teachers who are watching us this morning. What is it that you'd want to say to them and the stakeholders as well on this very important day, and that is on World Teachers Day? So let me begin with you, and then I'll go to you, Gideon, and then we'll close with Daktari, but very quickly.
Thank you, Winnie. Before I say my parting shots, I want to celebrate my teachers.
Okay.
The three of them in particular.
All right.
My Sunday school teacher, he was called James.
All right.
He shaped me when I was in Sunday school. Number two is my teacher, my father.
Yeah.
My father is a retired teacher.
Okay.
He shaped me to be who I am today.
All right.
And lastly, I want to celebrate posthumously Stanley Mutai.
Okay.
Long time serving executive secretary NAT, Kericho branch.
Yeah.
And later on he became first vice chair NAT in Nairobi.
All right.
Last month he died actually, and really I want to celebrate because he was my English teacher. So in my parting shots, I want to say that to the teacher, the world, to the world you may be seen as a teacher, but to your students you are a hero. Indeed, teachers, we are heroes in our country, and we want to thank the president because of the immense support he's supporting the TVET sector. Right from the time he was the Minister for Higher Education, when he was the Deputy President, and today now he's leading from front. The TVET sector is in the right direction.
That's so beautiful what you said. To the world, you might be just a teacher, but to your students, you are a hero. I felt that, and I'm not a teacher. All right. Gideon, what would you say to the stakeholders, TVET teachers, on this very special day?
Yeah, thank you. Because Mr. Tanui started it celebrating specific. Yeah, I would like to also celebrate, first of all, my father. He's a retired teacher.
No wonder you say there's a link.
Yes, there's a connection. Yeah. So Mr. Peter Wanjusi back there in Matunda, Likuyani.
Yeah.
My mother is still a teacher
at
St. Teresa's Primary School in Likuyani. So I also celebrate her. Yeah, but I think from my side is really to appreciate the TVET teachers. My brother will blame me. He's a teacher. He is a teacher. So at MEC.
Right.
Yeah, so I appreciate to really appreciate all the teachers and the work they do in terms of shaping the workforce for the future. I think their dedication and commitment is really recognized and acknowledged. Let us continue, collaborating, innovating, and really investing in education, because together, when we work together with all the partners and stakeholders, we can empower learners with skills and knowledge that are required to really build a prosperous and sustainable future.
I really like that. You escaped being a teacher, but you're here working in the profession. So I see that. All right. And Daktari, let's go on.
Thank you so much. It looks like everyone
has a list.
Mine is even more stronger. My dad was a teacher.
Really?
And taught all the days, actually taught during the times of Moi.
Yeah.
He was a teacher, and he was a teacher for many people. And I'm so proud of that he made what we are, And then I've got about 4 other people in my family. My elder brother, Javan Tarano, is a teacher. Eunice Saina is a teacher. And I'm also a teacher. I'm here. So teaching is an interesting job. It looks easy for some, but it's not very easy job. Shaping as he puts it, tabula rasa mind to become a professor. It's a whole process that takes time. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank several people for what I would thank the ministry, thank the presidency and the Ministry of Education, our CS and PS for the jobs they are doing. It's tough running the teaching sector. We have 32% of our GDP being used for education alone. That is 30% that's a lot of money. So you can see the immense work that goes in the Ministry of Education that really want to thank them on this Teachers' Day. And on behalf of technical teachers, I really want to appreciate what they are doing. I also want to thank the TVET teachers and confirm to them that we are together in the reforms and that we will hold our hands together and move to the next level of reforms, and that the reforms are not going to be very easy, but they must accept that we are going to do that if we move together. And for my parting shots, as usual, TVET works.
Okay. I really like that. TVET works. Positive way to end the conversation. I mean, clearly all of us come from that background where we have a teacher or two or three in this case. So I want to say thank you to really all of you for coming by this morning and help us really understand how important, you know, teachers are. And it doesn't matter, you know, where they are. All teachers are very noble, you know, people, and they shape our lives. So thank you so much for coming by this morning. Dr. Edwin Tano, Principal, Kenya School of TVET, Gideon Muranga, National TVET Coordinator, GIZ Kenya, and Shadrach Tunui, National Secretary General Kati, and also Principal at Kericho Township TVC. Thank you so much for coming by today. And I'm still going to celebrate all the teachers, from my parents, my mom, my dad, my aunties, uncles, and all my teachers as well. Happy World Teachers Day. You are celebrated, you are loved, you are appreciated, and have yourselves an amazing day ahead. And I'll see you tomorrow morning on AM Live, right here on NTV. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.